Hey Mueller junkies, this is AG, and I'd like to thank Third Love for supporting Mueller, She Wrote. Third Love knows there's a perfect bra for everyone, so right now they're offering our listeners 15% off their first order. So go to thirdlove.com/AG now to find your perfect fitting bra and get 15% off your purchase. I'd also like to thank Scentbird, a luxury perfume subscription service, for supporting Mueller, She Wrote. Go to scentbird.com/AG and use code AG at checkout for 50% off your first month. You'll be glad you did.
So to be clear, Mr. Trump has no financial relationships with any Russian oligarchs.
That's what he said. That's what I said. That's obviously what our position is.
I'm not aware of any of those activities. I have been called a surrogate at a time or two in that campaign, and I did not have communications with the Russians.
What do I have to get involved with Putin for? I have nothing to do with Putin. I've never spoken to him. I don't know anything about him other than he will respect me. Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing.
So, it is political. You're a communist.
No, Mr. Green. Communism is just a red herring. Like all members of the oldest profession, I'm a capitalist.
Hello, welcome to Mueller, She Wrote. I'm your anonymous host, AG, and with me as always is Jaleesa Johnson.
Hello.
And Jordan Coburn.
Hello.
And we are coming to you from the beautiful hotel, name redacted here, in Los Angeles for Politicon. We have an amazing show for you this week. We are recording this from Politicon, so if the sound quality is a little bit different, it's because we've got this little mobile rig set up in our room here, and then we're going to be recording some stuff from the floor. We'll have all kinds of pop-in guests today. Jordan is going to cover Trump's incredible interviews this week. Was it just the Leslie Stahl one that you're covering?
Yeah, the 60-minute interview.
It's 60 minutes is enough.
It's honestly a masterpiece as far as Trump is concerned.
Definitely.
They should call it the 60-year interview because it just seems forever when he's on there.
By masterpiece, I'm sorry, I have to clarify. I mean a perfect amalgamation of all of his faults.
Oh, yeah.
In one place. That's all I mean.
It's his magnum opus.
Yeah.
Absolutely ridiculous. My magnum opus. I can't even imagine him saying those words. And Jaleesa, let's see. You're going to cover Kushner's taxes now, because remember I think it was maybe last week or the week before. Time goes so oddly.
Yes.
What is time? But he, that had that whole New York Times 26-page article on Trump and his father giving him $1 billion over his life and never paying taxes and all these tax schemes and stuff. Well, they did one on Kushner this week, so you're going to cover that for us. I'm going to talk about the recent arrest of who I consider to be a hero within the Treasury Department that leaked some suspicious activity reports to the press, and the connection I found to previous reporting that we've done here on the show from Ronan Farrow. First, though, I have some corrections. I referred to Brian Kemp, the piece of shit Georgia Secretary of State overseeing his own election and actively oppressing voters in his race against Stacey Abrams for governor. I kept calling him Matt Kemp, who's actually number 27 left fielder for the Dodgers. 6'4", 210, drafted in the third round in 2003. Totally different guy. Sorry, Matt Kemp. I didn't mean to get you confused. He was with the Padres for a minute.
Oh, what a coincidence.
Our little home team. I think he had a nice butt, if I remember. Anyway, that's objectification of men, which is fine with me. Also, while talking about the Alpha Bank communications with the Trump Tower server, I had mistakenly said that the Trump domain was taken down within hours of the New York Times publishing a story, when actually it was taken down within hours of the New York Times reaching out to Alpha Bank for questions. Oh. So good catch there. That was a slight little thing, and but you're absolutely right. And I was like, oh yeah. They didn't publish the story. They just called and asked questions, and that's when the domain name came down within hours. So
yeah, our listeners are smart, man.
They're on top of us. What do you even need us for if you know that? So yeah, anyway, good catch. Always, you guys are free to send us corrections. Hello@Mueller, She Wrote, if you hear anything. And you guys may have noticed that we have a full ad card now. So if you want to get ad-free episodes, you can become a patron by visiting patreon.com/Mueller, She Wrote. Totes worth it. You get all the bonus episodes. You unlock all of them. There's like 80 now.
Also totes.
Totes. Yep. And,
Totes or totes worth it.
Totes. Mueller, she totes. The newsletter, you get the newsletter, the book club, my show notes. You'll be supporting independent journalism and women in podcasting. Very important things to support as far as I'm concerned. Not just because I do it. But we have a lot of stuff to get to. So let's jump in with just the facts. All right, so all the way back to last weekend when we were recording, the New York Times dropped another bomb on the administration saying Kushner paid no federal income tax for years, and Jaleesa will have details on that for us later in the show. Kushner's going to pop up a lot this week.
Oh, yeah.
I can't wait for that guy to go down.
His dad, too, got a little bit about that in the article.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Remember when we had, I think we had Dworkin on, and his picks for the Fantasy Indictment League. He has Papa
Charles
Kush.
Kushner, yeah. Papa Kush.
Sounds like a weed strain,
It
doesn't
does. It should be one now, yeah.
I feel like corrupt billionaires sell their sons off to their families.
That's what it looks like, yeah.
That's how it works. It's like, go be with the Trumps.
The Trumps
Do
and
good
the
work for us.
And the Bin Salmons.
Yeah.
Enjoy. Then let's see. Sunday, a paper in the United Kingdom called The Sun told us that Putin actually ordered the Skripal Novichok hitman, that guy who you tried to kill, Skripal and his daughter. He ordered him to assassinate Christopher Steele. The assassin's name is Alexander Mishkin. He's 39. He's like 5 years younger than me, baby. And he used the alias Alexander Petrov. Oh, very good cover-up. I would never know you were Russian. Alexander Petrov.
Nice.
Couldn't have just been like Bob Smith. No. Yeah. No, you'll never know it's me. That's the dumbest alias ever.
Oh, yeah.
It's a walking through the front door tactic.
Definitely, yeah.
Way to not seem Russian. You could have just gone with Alexander Mishkin. I don't understand. Anyway, so he used an alias, Alexander Petrov, for the botched hit on the Skripals, and then last week it was unmasked that Mishkin's accomplice is actually a Russian spy chief, and his name is Anatoly Chapiga. And Mishkin is a doctor that works for Russia's military intelligence agency. So it appears Mishnik plotted to use Novichok on Christopher Steele a year before the Skripal attack, and on the direct orders of Vladimir Putin. That's frightening.
That's insane. Yeah,
I'm not surprised. I know that Bill Browder is probably like Steele must be a badass to have gone this far without having. He's still with us.
He's still alive.
Yeah.
He went into hiding, but yeah, he's smart. He's very smart.
Yeah, I suppose Skripal was a spy too. I don't know.
Steele went into hiding, but I think he's out now, isn't he?
Definitely out. Yeah. But this is like you're saying a recent thing, or is this just a follow up of when he was on the list?
It was a year before Skripal.
Okay, so it's been a little while.
He's been trying, I guess, and he keeps missing. So that's got to upset him.
Just imagine missiles just missed again.
I have Pac-Man in my head for some reason. Also, Sunday, Trump appeared in an interview with Leslie Stahl on 60 Minutes. He thinks he did well, and that's hilarious. Jordan has that story coming up a little later. It's again, his masterpiece. Mm-hmm. Then Monday, we saw our friend Scott Stedman's name in the mainstream media. It's about time his name started popping up. We've had him on the pod a few times. He's 22. He just graduated college, and he's just a cool kid.
Incredible.
But a couple weeks back and a few months ago, we had him on to talk about Simone Mangiante, because we've always been skeptical about who she really is. So Simona Mangiante is supposedly an Italian woman who is the fiance of Papadopoulos, Coffee Boy. And she has ties to Mifsud, and she just always, her accent always seemed off to me. And, I'm not an expert or anything, but it just didn't seem right. And he came on, Stedman came on the show, and, we talked at length about some of the lies that are inconsistencies in her story about where she's from and what she does and how old she is. And he's got some really close familial sources in his pocket about that story. But then, also we had Seth Abramson on, and we're going to have him on again soon. His book Proof of Collusion is coming out soon, and he wanted to come on and say hi again. He actually came on in March, or he put out a tweet, and we had him on a little bit later, but he put out a tweet that it was really interesting that when Papadopoulos was in Italy, probably meeting with Putin allies, Deripaska's, Oleg Deripaska, the yacht man, his yacht was parked off shore when he was there, when Papadopoulos was there. And I just have this like party boat image in my head of Deripaska with a bunch of young sex coaches, because Nastya Rybka was with him for a long time. She's the sex coach who ended up in a Thai jail for apparently soliciting sex in Thailand, which no one ever does. And like the capital of that.
Oh, yeah.
It's like getting arrested in Vegas for gambling.
Right? Or Amsterdam for weed.
Yeah. Okay. So, but she took a video on Deripaska's yacht when it was in Norway, showing Deripaska talking to the Prime Minister of Russia after he had just flown from Russia to pick up the Prime Minister. And before that, he was in Newark, New Jersey, where Manafort was meeting with Kalimnik. And Kalimnik is kind of the go-between. And the reason is Manafort owed Deripaska like $18 or $19 million. Deripaska actually sued him twice for that money. But then when Manafort got the job for free working,
they're all good then,
working with Trump, he dropped the lawsuits, right? And there's actual written documentary evidence showing that Manafort was trying to make whole the debt with Deripaska.
That's right, yeah.
So can we make whole with briefings? And so all that went down. So that's Deripaska, and he's kind of got this penchant for young sex coaches.
Yeah.
And I, more power to you, ladies. But that's kind of his gig. And
That's his thing, yeah.
and so when Seth brought that up, that he was offshore when Papadop was in Italy, and I'm wondering if that's when he met Mangiante. And so I just cooked it up in my head, and this is total speculation, that Mangiante is one of Deripaska's yacht ladies.
Oh, shit.
And is probably Slovakian and a Russian asset, and she used to work for Mifsud. And so, like, I put all that together in my head because I'm weird. But
hella beans, yeah.
Hella beans.
So anyway, this week, I should say, ABC picked up the story and reported that Mangiante provided ABC with a picture of her Italian passport, because ABC was asking questions when Scott Stedman started poking around. ABC picked it up and said, we need to ask. So she sent a picture of her passport, and that just raised more questions than it answered. Something was weird about it, and eventually she acknowledged that she doctored her age on the passport, which says she's 34, but she's actually 37.
How do you even do that? Like in Photoshop, she doctored it, or she actually got she didn't get a fake passport?
That'd be funny.
The
if
picture was doctored.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't really know exactly. All it says is it was doctored.
Which is so weird for just a random woman, just an innocent wife, fiance, to just doctor
just
her
a
passport.
Student and a lawyer intern.
Yeah, like
which
we all do.
She lied about too. She never worked for that law firm.
Right.
The law firm was like, no, she's never been here. And she's like, yes, I was. And I was an intern. They don't keep records for that. And they're like,
They said in
we
no
do.
capacity. Yeah.
They're like, we do keep records, and you've never been here.
Yeah, at a law firm where they have really important classified information. I shouldn't say classified, but
important.
protected.
Yeah.
That's
what they do.
Yeah. 3 years is such a weird way to. It's a weird number to lie about your age too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Only 3 years.
And Scott Stedman had her marriage certificate showing a different date of birth than her passport. She said, and then she admitted to it. She copped to it. She said she did it because she wants to appear younger so she can have a career in Hollywood as an actress.
Nope, not buying it. Personally.
3 years. And by the way, 34, you're already dead in Hollywood. So
Thank you.
It's not
Good
going
point.
to make a difference. That's just so, unless you're Matt Kemp from the Dodgers. He had a great career.
Yeah. Not everybody's Betty White, I guess.
Well on into his 30s.
She wants a career in DC as an actor.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, a Russian actor. So anyway, Mueller's been asking her if she's concealing any ties to the Kremlin, because both her and Papadop have ties to Mifsud, like I said, who was acting as a Russian agent at the time, and Mifsud is still missing, and he could be deceased. We don't know where he is. He hasn't popped up on the radar yet. I really hope that Mueller has him in a safe house somewhere, and he's gonna reveal
Plot
the whole thing.
twist. Yeah.
But now I'm getting way speculative.
Been a
Forced him
while.
to reunite with his son.
Yeah.
Aww. They're camping together, father-son camping trip. Baby's like 9 months older.
And where's that baby from? No, I'm kidding.
Good point, yeah.
Also on Tuesday, no, excuse me, we haven't started Tuesday yet. We're going to start it now. Tuesday, Manafort asked if he could pretty please appear in court this past Friday in a suit, and crazy Judge Alice told him hell no. If everyone else has to wear the prison jumpsuit to hearings, so does he. Basically, if you're going to a jury trial, you can wear a suit, because they don't want to kind of taint the jury with your guilty feeling by making you wear a prison outfit.
Right.
Like you march somebody out in stripes, you're going to be like, I don't know if that guy. And so we're very big on innocent until proven guilty.
But
it's kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But when you're already a felon and you're appearing at trial, you get to look guilty as fuck.
Yeah.
So they made him wear his
He
jumpsuit.
literally pled guilty. Like, what? He went to a suit?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
So, and I thought that was a nice touch, even though Ellis is a little off his rocker sometimes. But, like, his point was that justice is for all. It's the same. And whether you're, somebody who stole, I don't know, $50 from your neighbor, or whether you're somebody who stole $60 million from America, you got to wear the same clothes.
Totally.
So,
I love that, yeah.
And we'll have a little bit more on Manafort later in the show, because his hearing was Friday, and we'll go over that.
Nice.
Also on Tuesday, the New York Times published a story about the ongoing investigation into the murder, not the disappearance, the murder of WAPO journalist Jamal Khashoggi. That's the same day, by the way, that Pompeo, that's Trump's Secretary of State, was all smiles in a meeting with MBS, Mbissa, or Mohammed Bonsah. I think that's going to be his name from now on. The story is that this past summer, Saudi Arabia promised Trump $100 million for American efforts to stabilize Syria, and that money landed in American accounts on Tuesday. That's the same day Mohammed Bonsah met with Pompeo in Riyadh. This looks like a bribe to me, and when we flip the House, you can bet there will be investigations into whether or not Trump was complicit in Khashoggi's murder. And now there's news reports coming out just kind of as we're recording this that Kushner could be involved. And I'm not surprised at all, because back in, let's see, was it March of this year? In episode 21, actually. It's a long time ago.
Yeah.
We did a story that came out in The Intercept that reported that MBS said he had Jared Kushner in his pocket.
That's right.
He bragged to MBZ, Mbizza. That's the UAE guy.
Yeah.
And MBS is the Saudi Arabia guy. He bragged that he had Kushner in his pocket. That was after Kushner made an unannounced trip to Riyadh the year before, and apparently Kushner briefed the Crown Prince on all Saudi leaders that were disloyal to the Crown. And they were subsequently expelled. It's also important to note that the White House hosted the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia back in March. And that giving of intel and probably trying to get money to pay off his building, he still owed 1.4 or 1.8 billion on 666 Fifth Avenue
and
at that
time.
And
they bought it.
Qatar actually ended up funding
that's
it,
right.
which is an enemy of Saudi Arabia. So,
Which is so
I don't know what game
interesting.
he's playing, but...
The money game. They only care about money.
The money game. Yeah, the who pays off my hotel game.
Monopoly.
Just real life Monopoly.
Yeah.
God, you're right.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Except there's more rules followed in Monopoly.
There are way more rules.
Yeah, I don't
murder
remember
someone in Monopoly.
I don't remember in Monopoly laundering money to pad the receipts to raise rents.
Oh, that's passing 200 or pass and go, and you collect 200. You're funneling the money every time.
Yeah.
The go to jail part's real though.
That's real life, for 2
hopefully.
seconds until you roll the dice. Those rules need to be changed.
Oh, wait, what are we talking about? Real life? Or
I don't even know anymore.
It's all the same, man. It's all the same.
Then on to Wednesday, when Bloomberg's Shannon Petty piece, along with Farrell and Strom, wrote a piece on Mueller, saying he's ready to deliver key findings in the Russia probe, according to sources. 2 U.S. officials told Bloomberg that Mueller is expected to issue his findings on core aspects of the Trump-Russia investigation soon after the election, November 6th. Specifically, the investigation into collusion or conspiracy. We call it crimes of collusion because that's how it was referred to in the DOJ memo from Rosenstein that outlined the scope or defined the scope of the Mueller probe. And the obstruction piece as well. Now, that doesn't mean that the findings will be made public. He may reveal his findings only to his boss, Rosenstein. What have we landed on? I think it's Rosenstein.
I think it depends on their personality, right?
No.
Stein.
Stein's nice, yeah.
Wait, it's Feinstein.
Yeah.
Oh, so Steen is the...
Rosenstein.
Yeah, there we go.
Rosenstein? Frankenstein. Because he has the authority to decide what is relayed to Congress and what is publicly released. It's all up to him. We've all heard that Trump is going to go nuclear after the elections and fire everyone, pretty much, which makes the timing really crucial. Rosenstein himself this week had said he wants Mueller to wrap up the investigation, but he also said publicly on Friday that he supports the probe and called it independent. And that makes the week after the election, or the weeks following the election, really pivotal in the investigation. Though I'm sure Mueller knows Rosenstein and Sessions could be fired right after the election, and that he's put in protections. I was talking to David Priest. We're going to have him on the show in a couple weeks. His book's coming out. He's the counterintelligence expert.
Yeah.
And he was talking about some of the protections Mueller might have. In fact, he actually, we were talking that he thinks that Mueller might actually have some indictments ready to go, sealed and ready to go.
Those blank ones, maybe.
Those were specifically calling in witnesses to the Manafort trial.
Okay, so these will be different, yeah.
Yeah, these are different, but they're just under seal. And the ones for witnesses are usually like a page or two. And maybe these ones are not.
Yeah.
These are a little more complex.
A little thicker, yeah.
So the sentencing for Flynn and Manafort are set for December. Actually, Manafort's has now moved, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But Cohen's is as well. And Mueller just recently has been talking to Cohen, not to mention he's waiting for those written responses, to his questions from Trump. There's nothing stopping Trump from slow rolling those answers to those questions to buy time to fire everyone at the top of the DOJ so we can replace him with Brian Bunchkowski and Matthew fucking Whitaker. So we call him Matthew fucking Whitaker.
I love that.
So these major aspects could be wrapped up by Thanksgiving, which cracks me up because remember last year when Trump's lawyers were demanding the probe be finished by Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
Maybe they meant Thanksgiving 2018.
Yeah, maybe 2020. We'll see.
Yeah, because we were all sitting there like, really? You want this to be wrapped up in 4 months, 5 months?
Ridiculous, yeah.
When Benghazi took, 3-4 years? Something stupid?
Watergate was 2 years, yeah.
3 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're like, no, Thanksgiving next year maybe? In fact, I think that 18 months is probably one of the, considering the complexity of this investigation, that's fast.
Oh, yeah.
And how they have Manafort and some of the most key people that they need.
Mm-hmm. He flipped everyone. There's this really great article that came out this week comparing the art of war to what Mueller has done.
Oh, wow.
In this investigation. You should check it out. It's really good.
It's incredible.
We'll put it out in our newsletter. But yeah, they're basically, talking about how his style is to, the way he basically did the Gotti case, he worked with Jimmy the Bull Gravano, a guy who murdered 19 guys, which is nothing compared to what Gotti had done. So he was willing and able to give a murderer, a guy who killed 19 people, a break so that he could roll the big fish. And that seems to be kind of what he's doing here, giving immunity to people like Nader, a child pornographer and complete a-hole, but like this is how he sees justice. This is how he views justice. He views it in a very large picture. And I think that, sometimes you watch a show from beginning to end, season 1 to season 10, and you're like, did they have the ending in mind when they started the show and kind of worked their way to it? And I think that Mueller did. I think he knew exactly what he needed to do and what his timeline was going to be. And I think he set the whole thing up and then he just followed. I think maybe Manafort took longer to roll than he thought he would.
Yeah.
Like, really, you dumb piece of shit? You still aren't going to cooperate?
But he had everything he needed.
All right, I'll put another trial in here. We'll charge you with 10 more things. And, and finally he
Mueller's
flipped.
been here before. We were talking about this in the hotel room earlier about how Mueller's basically done this with mobs, mob families.
Gotti.
Yeah. So he knows his game plan, how to win, know. Yeah.
And he does it and he also destroys the house from within by picking off loyalists.
Yep.
And flipping them. Cohen.
It's already happened.
Manafort, Gates, and that drives Trump to make
crazy
bigger mistakes.
Decisions. Yeah.
So these people have much less loyalty than mobsters do too.
Totally.
Right. Like what are you going to do?
They're willing
to me?
flip. Yeah. They're freaking rats.
They're snowflakes, man.
They're rats. Yeah. That's not a Jew thing. Please don't think that's a Jew thing.
No, definitely not.
Okay.
No emails.
Okay. Oh my God!
I know.
Why would anyone think that?
I don't know, dude. I've people are mean. People are bad.
Yeah, I guess. But you guys need to chill out about us. We're nice people.
Yeah.
I appreciate the emails, but not always.
Definitely.
We seriously think about the intent behind. Anyway, I don't want to get into it. I love you. And please know we're good people. Then Wednesday, a Treasury official was charged in the leak of bank data about Manafort, Gates, and Butina, and I'll go over that later in the show. Wednesday night, McGahn left the White House. Surprisingly, this got very little media coverage, I guess because people leaving the White House is pretty normal. But McGahn is the White House counsel that Trump treated as his personal attorney when he's actually the attorney for the people. And as we know, McGahn has been a key witness against Trump in the obstruction investigation. He spent over 30 hours talking to Mueller. McGahn was there during the Sally Yates Flynn warning situation and during the Comey firing. And his lawyers, by the way, McGahn has a lawyer, and that guy is the same lawyer as Bannon and Priebus, which means they're all singing from the same sheet of music, which can't be good for Trump. And their attorney's name is Burke, and he was also the guy, just a sidebar, he was the guy that He's dubbed thousands of documents in the Kavanaugh confirmation as committee confidential. He was the private lawyer that did that, so that's weird. But McGahn has stopped Trump from firing Mueller, and he stopped Trump from trying to get Sessions to unrecuse himself, whatever the fuck that is. And he was responsible for shepherding the nominations of both of Trump's SCOTUS picks, Gorsuch and Kavanaugh. Oh. And now that Kavanaugh is confirmed, I imagine his job was done, and so he's out.
Right.
But he left without much fanfare. Maddow didn't do her wall.
Oh, that's right. She always busts out the wall. Yeah.
Also Wednesday, we learned that Cohen had met with prosecutors investigating the Trump org and the Trump Foundation. So we knew he'd been talking with Mueller about Russia. He met with him a bunch of times. And now we're learning he's talking with the Southern District of New York prosecutors and the New York State Attorney General about their respective investigations into Trump's family businesses, including the Trump Organization and the Trump Foundation, which is his for-profit and his non-profit, but they're both for-profits. Trump responded by belittling Cohen's role, saying, quote, "He was in trouble for what he did for me. He was in trouble for what he did for other people. He represented me very little.
There's trouble on both sides, is what he's trying to say.
It's a very low level. And what he was is also a public relations person."
Okay.
He's PR guy. Payoff porn stars guy.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, that's public relations, buddy? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what his relations are is all relative, I suppose.
You know what? Payoff porn stars is POPs. You can say a little acronym there. Yeah. He's a popper. It's not going to stick. It's not going to happen.
I can see where you're going, though.
Thank you.
All right, let's see. Also Wednesday, it appears that Glenn Simpson from Fusion GPS, remember this guy? And his lawyers were back on the Hill, having been asked to appear in front of the House Judiciary on Tuesday. Simpson and his lawyer refused to answer questions. They're like, hell no, saying the hearing was a farce and the House Republicans on the committee were simply trying to badger Simpson to obtain false evidence so they could bolster their false claims that the dossier, which Simpson worked to assemble with Christopher Steele, is not credible. They've been after this the whole time. This is their one thing. They have like one thing left and this is it. And it's still, nothing has been unsubstantiated in the dossier. But the Republicans are saying nothing's been substantiated, and we're saying nothing's been disproven.
Yeah, we're on such opposite ends. I think we're on the right side, though. Personally, yeah.
Well, we are. But it's funny. A Fox News reporter stopped his lawyers and Simpson in the hall and asked if anything in the fake dossier had ever been substantiated, like what we're talking about. Like that's their talking point. This Fox News reporter, this is her big thing. So she's like, has anything ever even been substantiated in the Steele dossier? And Simpson's lawyer started naming people mentioned in the dossier that have been convicted for actions outlined in the dossier. So he's like, yeah, people are being convicted. People have pled guilty. People have gone to jail.
Pretty
that were mentioned in the
yeah.
So yes, many things have been substantiated. So she interrupted him, saying that they should stop focusing on the little things here and there. And then she had the gall to ask if anything had been unsubstantiated, like the spelling of Alpha Bank, to which Simpson's lawyer said, the president conspired with a foreign adversary to cheat in the 2016 election. You just told me that felony convictions are insignificant details, and asked about the spelling of Alpha Bank.
Yeah.
Look at the big picture, lady. He was mad. He's like, they conspired with Russia to cheat. Shut up.
Seriously.
We're not answering your questions. We sat for 20 hours and then 17 hours. It's like there were like 3 or 4 different Simpson interviews, and we had all the transcripts. We've talked about them. We've gone over them with a fine-tooth comb in past episodes. And he's like, shut up.
And what about Kofif? People make mistakes.
True. We're all human.
Kofifi.
I say Kofefi, but yeah, man, I like all the renditions. Kofif.
Fefe. Kofifi.
Kofif. Yeah, I think you're right. There's an extra V in there at the end, isn't there?
Right.
That's like a cross-examining defense attorney, though, just trying to find the most ridiculous details to
nitpicking
somehow. Yeah, exactly.
It was like the lady at the Kavanaugh thing. Like, what was she on about? Did you get paid? Who paid for your lie detector test?
Exactly.
Who paid for it? When did they pay for it? Who paid for it?
The law firm usually pays for it. They already knew this.
And finally, the lawyer just leans in and he goes, "We paid for it, which is normal." Next question.
Please move on. Yeah.
You piece of shit.
Yeah. Also, the airplane flights.
Right.
They were being really.
Are you afraid of flying? What are you afraid of flying? Is it flying?
They're just sowing doubt. That's it. They don't have actual, substantiated evidence. Just sowing doubt in people's minds, and it works. Yeah. It's so sad.
It does, but that's what the guilty people always do. Let's see. More Wednesday. Twitter released a database of more than 10 million Russian tweets from almost 4,000 Russian troll accounts. They've been coming out with these reports since last year on Twitter. Their first report was 201 accounts. 201 Russian accounts, and that was in September of 2017. And then, there's a few more, like 400. We had like 1.4 million tweets, and they said that in October of 2017. Now, a year later, we're finally starting to get the picture of just how widespread the Russian social media influence was. 10 million tweets, 4,000 accounts. And that's probably going to get bigger.
Oh, it's gotta, yeah.
Still Wednesday, it appeared that Trump and Saudi Arabia are going to blame a Saudi general for going rogue and killing Khashoggi. Trump has been laying the groundwork for this alternative story all week, and now it appears the Crown Prince is parroting what Trump says. First, it was a flat-out denial. Now they're blaming a rogue actor. Sound familiar?
Oh, yeah.
It's like when Putin denied interfering in the election, and then he blamed a rogue Chinese guy or a 400-pound guy in his bed somewhere.
Yeah.
This is so obvious to me, and that it's not obvious to Trump supporters is astounding, kind of. The most interesting thing about the rogue Saudi general, his name is Ahmed Assisi, and he also just happens to be the guy that Nader, child molester, was dealing with on an election interference case, or working with him to fund Russian interference in the election. So now it appears that Trump and Mohammed Bonesaw can kill two birds with one stone, quite literally.
They can saw two birds with one bone saw.
Yeah, they can,
doesn't roll off the tongue.
Dismember two birds with one bone saw.
There you go.
So they have a fall guy now for Khashoggi, and they can take out an operative that helped Saudi Arabia cheat in the election on behalf of Trump.
Insanity,
all at the same time. And then more stuff came out this week about Khashoggi. We talked about the Kushner stuff, but it's just getting more and more sinister what actually happened, at least according to Turkish intelligence. We don't know what the U.S. intelligence has or what they've been given or what they've been briefed on. But now Trump and Bonesaw are pivoting even more, saying that there was a fight. A fight broke out between this one dude, an old journalist, and 15 Saudi Arabian hitmen.
Oh my goodness!
And that then there was a chokehold. Now they've gone to say that the Saudi Arabians have said, well, first of all, Trump was like, give Saudi more days to investigate. And we're like, what the fuck off?
To come up with the story is what it was. Yeah.
So give the Saudis more time, but not Kavanaugh. Okay, whatever.
So it was a week of nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was done in 3 days, and they limited it super. And I'm sure this is kind of the same bullshit farce investigation. But
totally.
Trump has 120 days to look into it per the Magnitsky Act, which was triggered by our Senate.
Interesting.
If you want to know about the Magnitsky Act, I think episode 2 talks all about Magnitsky and Bill Browder and all the interesting things about that. Enjoy that. The great sound quality from episode 2.
Bask in it.
So yeah, there's just all sorts of weird bullshit going on with this, and honestly, I personally think, and this is speculation, this is conjecture, that Trump was complicit in this, and probably Kushner
in the cover-up.
Yep.
Maybe not the act itself.
I think so. In the act,
could be the act itself for sure. The cover-up, though, I think.
Yeah. Okay. And complicity in terms of in the act itself, that would only require him having known about it and pretty much given the green light. That's all you would need. And it sounds so like Trump.
Yeah.
God, that sucks. That it's
and
come to this.
I've seen some unsubstantiated reports that Trump actually did give a go-ahead for this, but again, these are not substantiated reports. These are rogue sources.
Yeah.
So, but we will find out. The great thing about these things is we can speculate all day, and you might argue with me and send me a bunch of tweets about how I'm being stupid. And that's fine. You can do that. But we're going to find out the truth. And I think wasting our time arguing about what we think might be real, it's fun for me to speculate, but let it unfold and we can find out the truth. You don't need to get yourself all worked up. And if not, arguing something that we will find out the answer to.
Exactly. And if not the mainstream media that'll be on it immediately, I love these independent journalists they're really on top of these kind of things, like Steven and just these things that most people won't touch, regardless of what this investigation ends up being. If it's another Kavanaugh shenanigan, I think people will rise up and they'll try to find out what the truth is. Like, I hope they don't let this go, and it doesn't seem like they will.
Yeah, and independent journalists make mistakes. We don't have the benefit of a massive newsroom with the news flashes coming through,
resources,
and sources to corroborate witnesses and sources and things like that. So if you want your independent journalism, just make sure that they differentiate between facts and conjecture, but also, and I understand about responsible reporting, but right now with the fourth estate under attack as it is by this administration, we need to rely on these guys, and we need to let them make errors, and they always come out with corrections. I always come out with corrections if I make an error. So, just don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. That's all I'm saying.
Totally. Yeah, good point.
The idea, though, of them getting to the bottom of this is a bit scary to think about, I think, because obviously the Saudis kill independent journalists.
Which is the issue. I mean, we've come full circle, right? It's like, I feel like, and you're totally right, it won't end unless people like this guy, Jamal, like against all odds, knowing exactly what's going to happen. It's crazy to think that we're this far, but what's the alternative? Just like looking the other way, It's like, I know it's scary, and for even American journalists, it can be tough, but I'm just in awe of what he did in his last hours. Khashoggi, I feel like that's just what it should be. It sucks that it's come to that, but yeah. Totally.
All right, well, I don't know. I'm not. Are you scared? I don't know.
I'm scared because what happens overseas always makes its way here, and that's just the way the world works. And I think just knowing that he was a journalist until the very end, and how it had to end for him, these are crazy times. Like, we are journalists, but we are removed from that level of journalism. But the idea is that if we let this go on a humanity level,
we're less investigative journalists.
We are, and we're just people, so it's terrifying in that sense too. But yeah,
and we're more speculative journalists.
True. I don't mean to toot our horn. It's just what he did. I admire, and I think it's sad that he had to do it.
Yeah, I'm not scared for us personally at all. I was more so just saying I think the investigation into the death of an investigative journalist, if it started bloody, it's probably not just going to be clean and happen quickly, swiftly, justly.
Like, now it's done.
It's scary for them to get down to the bottom of it. The people that are actually going to get down to the bottom of it, that's scary for them.
Like, it'll get bloodier, likely. Yeah.
Support, and that's why it's so tragic that Trump isn't standing up for him.
Yeah, I think it's scary for everyone, but especially for those people on the front lines. It's only going to get bloodier before I think it gets better.
And journalism as a whole. I think the attack on the fourth estate, like I said, he's got all three branches of government, and now he's working to chip away at journalism. So we have to be careful of that, and we have to not fall victim to completely dismissing an independent journo because they made an error. It happens. Please be cool. And I'm not talking about us. I'm talking specifically about a couple people that maybe in the coming weeks you might find out have made some errors. And I'm just kind of lubing the truth a little.
Okay. That's fair.
Like, disclaimer. Let's just be cool, you guys. Let's just be cool. Then finally we got to Thursday, and we learned that Mueller's team has met with Manafort 9 times.
9 times?
9 times?
Yeah, so he met with him 9 times in recent weeks. And The Hill has reported that Mueller is talking to Manafort about Stone. And Stone has said, he's always been saying this for a while, not always since he was a boy, but he's been saying that he expects to be indicted. And I'm sure that we'll see that happen soon. Maybe Mueller could drop the Stone indictment before the election and mention enough about the big fish so that the public expects those indictments after the election, kind of securing him his ability to continue to release information. That's what I would do if I were him, but he's also a million times smarter than me.
Right.
I would drop a little before the election so that if Rosenstein and Sessions or were fired right after the election, people would go nuts and say, we got to know what the hell else Mueller has.
Totally.
Like give a little, expect a lot.
Yeah.
Another story came out Thursday from Kansas City saying a conservative activist with Project Veritas posed as a fake intern with Senator Claire McCaskill's campaign and had access to her voter information, according to a stack of documents delivered to her lawyer. As an intern, the Project Veritas guy named Adam Thompson, or he goes by Adam Thompson, had access to the campaign's voter database for a total of 20 hours between May and July, according to the sworn affidavit. I've noticed a lot of people like to compare the Russia probe, the Mueller investigation, to Watergate. But this story is more like Watergate because it's an American stealing opposing party documents from another American. The Russia probe is exponentially bigger, and this story about this, plant in the Claire McCaskill campaign stealing voter information, this went under the radar because Watergate-level shit happens on the daily in this administration. So you want Watergate level? Well, it happened this past Thursday in Kansas, and barely anybody heard about it.
Damn.
Reminds me of what happened with that well, I forget the name, but it was basically when someone from one of the parties stole information from the other party in the Senate confirmation hearings.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the Miranda papers?
Yes. Reminds me of that.
Yeah, that was for confirmation stuff. Friday, we learned that Rosenstein will face congressional questioning in private by... It is Rosenstein. Will face congressional questioning in private by... This is what happens before 9 a.m.
I was just going to say,
world.
I think actually maybe I've heard it's Rosenstein and Feinstein.
I think that sounds right.
I think they're both
too.
Steins.
Really?
Yeah.
Let's just mix it up when we feel like it.
Yeah,
It's got an I in the second position, so you would use the I sound for Rosenstein.
They know who we're talking about.
They do. Just get over it. Anyway, he'll face congressional questioning in private by a Republican and Democratic group of leaders from both the House Judiciary and House Oversight Committees on the Hill next week. And this is for the wiretapping issue, McCabe memo shit. So a transcript will be released once it's completely scrubbed by the intelligence community, which has to be approved by the White House. And that raises a lot of red flags for me, like especially since Mark Meadows, a huge asshole from North Carolina and head of the House Freedom Caucus is who he is. He called for Rosenstein to resign again this week. That guy, Mark Meadows, is a piece of shit. Ugh. Anyway, we got a felony Friday this week, you guys. Woo-hoo. Maine Justice in the Eastern District of Virginia announced they are bringing criminal charges against a Russian operative named Elena Kuskyanova. She's been charged with conspiracy to defraud the United States because she managed the finances of, quote, Project Lakhta. Not Latka, Lakhta.
Okay.
So it's not a potato pancake.
Sounds like Locked Up.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is a Russian influence operation designed to sow discord in the United States by pushing misinformation online about a host of divisive political issues, including gun control, the Confederate flag, immigration, and even the NFL anthem protests.
Oh, shit.
Jeez.
So she, now this has not got anything to do with the Mueller investigation. I've looked and it doesn't seem like it was referred by the Mueller investigation. But I take, and this is person interfering in these midterm elections, not 2016.
Right.
So I take great comfort in knowing that the Department of Justice is looking into this.
Seriously, yeah.
And is catching people who are interfering in this election. That brings me joy.
Yeah.
So
what's the deal on the fantasy indictment points?
We'll get there.
Oh,
we're going to cover that in the fantasy indictment
no
link today. Also Friday, Manafort had his day in court and apparently came in a wheelchair. His lawyer said his incarceration is affecting his health, and apparently his foot was swollen from a poor diet. I guess we speculating it was gout or something.
Yeah, something when his luxuries are gone and just his foot just starts swelling from all the lies.
Like from the lies. It's lies, gout.
It's gotta go somewhere, man.
He usually can purge himself if he fills himself up. Oh, that's what I remember now what we were saying before. Something about like ferret's blood. He doesn't have access to the ferret's blood he's been drinking to purge himself of all of his sins.
God, that's perfect.
He flagellates with ferret's blood. I love it. Anyway, yes, we're making fun of an infirmary, whatever. And crazy ass honey badger Ellis said, "Well, I didn't put him in there," which is so he rolls him in. He's like, he's very sick. He's had bad nutrition and his foot is swollen. He can't walk. And Ellis is like, I didn't put him in jail, which is great because he didn't. Remember, it was Judge Amy.
Oh, that's right.
Miss Jackson, if you're nasty. She's the one who, I think it was her, revoked his bail and tossed him in the clink for foldering with Sager. Anyway, not Nader.
That is cold.
Not Sater.
I'm glad.
That's right.
But
They're
Sager.
different. Yeah.
But they all folder.
Yeah. I'm glad Ellis is at least consistent in his dickery.
Yeah, exactly.
He
and
can't be an asshole.
Right. So he said, I didn't put him in jail, fucking crazy ass bitch. And then we got to get Randall back on here to narrate. We had Randall from Randall's Animals, crazy ass honey badger did our narration for the Manafort trial. If you watch the Manafort Megasode or watch. You can watch it on YouTube.
Yeah, it's a still picture for 2 hours.
But you listen to that, I think that's where we have Randall on, and he goes over the entire Manafort Virginia trial. It's pretty great. We're going to have him back on when he has his day in court. So here's a couple things happened in this hearing. First of all, his sentencing was set for February 8th, my mom's birthday. Happy birthday, Mom. Interesting, considering it comes after Dems would get the gavels back. If we retake the House November 6th, please vote. Don't count on it. You have to make it happen. And Ellis dismissed the 10 charges that were not decided in the Eastern District of Virginia case because of that one hung juror. Remember how he had 18 counts. He was found guilty on 8, and then they had to they were declared a mistrial on 10 of those counts because there was one juror who wouldn't
Buzzkill.
Yeah.
One buzzkill.
Yeah, not the rural juror. She was on board.
The rural juror was on board. Rural juror. And I just thought it was
It's perfect.
It was interesting that like this technique, because Mueller wants to have those 10 counts in his back pocket so he can see how well or to what level Manafort cooperates. And he's like, if you do good, if you're a good boy, I can dismiss these 10 charges. If you're a bad boy and we don't get these convictions, then I can retry these 10 charges and probably win, because only one person was hung up on it, and it was in the Eastern District of Virginia, and that guy was probably a Trump supporter.
True.
So
Props to that guy, though, at least. That's the reason why they can even keep that jury system.
Exactly.
Because the guys like him that will make, So
Definitely.
as annoying as it is,
It's American
respect.
democracy, what it should be.
Whatever.
Unless, well, because he voted, he said he was guilty on the other counts at least. So he's not just the one guy being like, nope.
Exactly.
That's true. We did get 8 counts. So Judge Ellis wanted crazy ass honey badger judge wanted Mueller to make up his mind, because you usually have 30 days after a trial to decide whether you're going to retry any hung counts. And so Mueller asked for an extension because he's working out this plea agreement, and he got his extension, but now crazy ass honey badger is like, no, I need it now. And so he had to come into court on Friday and make a decision. And so what they decided, from what I can tell, because I've read several different reports on this, I've even read that Manafort pled guilty to the 10 counts and they could be dismissed later, but that's not what happened. Those 10 counts were dismissed, and I believe they were asked if they could be dismissed with prejudice, which means we can bring them up again if we want. And I don't have a clear answer, and maybe you do. If you do, tweet it at us at Mueller, she wrote. I don't have a clear answer as to whether or not Judge Ellis granted the with prejudice part. It was kind of unclear, and I was hoping that last night on Maddow she would have the script and she would do a table reading, but she didn't get the transcript, and it was actually she was not even there.
Yeah, Joy was there, and she's supposed to be here, so she must have flew straight out of New York.
I'm hoping that it's because Maddow's going to be here, but she's probably canoeing.
Dude. Because she canoed to Politicon, just like a little puddle, roll right up.
She just rolls up in the bay.
Like
around.
around.
There's no bay here, but if there was.
Like through the Panama Canal?
Exactly, yeah.
The Bering Strait.
That'd be amazing.
Pass. Is that she going to go to Cape
She can't be straight, man.
Cape of Good Hope?
There's a lame
One
gay
foot
joke.
up on the tip of the canoe.
Oh, gosh, that's funny. That's just a great image. Does she have a triangle hat, a 3-corner hat?
Yeah. She's gotta. It's the only way.
The wind is blowing. Her hair would be blowing if she had any. Just imagine.
But her neck is so aerodynamic that nothing.
Right.
She just cuts right through
like
the
a
wind.
blade, yeah.
It's like a rudder. All right, whatever. Anyway, that's February 8th is when Manafort gets sentenced. That's a long time from now, so that gives him a lot of time to deal with stuff. The 10 counts were dismissed. Then later on in the hearing, Manafort pled guilty to 2 counts in his D.C. trial because they had a deal in the cooperation agreement. I don't know if anybody noticed this, but they had a cap of 10 years of prescribed sentencing from anything that came out of the D.C. trial if he fully cooperated. So they picked 2 counts that come up to 10 years. And that he pled guilty. He pleaded guilty to them. Pleaded. I know it's pleaded. It's just so hard. English. So he pleaded guilty to those, and I guess that's it. There is a status report due from both teams on November 16th, so we'll see what happens then. But it's going to be interesting. A lot of shit's going to go down in November, you guys. So
Yeah, my birthday.
Yeah, when is it again?
The 19th.
All of November.
Yeah. All of November.
My sister's the 18th. That's right. We talked about Scorpios.
Oh, nice.
This dynamic makes more sense now.
Oh, yeah.
It's very familiar for AG. It's I don't know if I'd say I'd like it, but they're definitely giving him the full prison treatment, lack of health care included. It would seem.
Yeah.
His foot's just
Lack of
swelling
nutrition.
up like, Jesus Christ, that is fucking horrible. But that shit happens all the time.
Yeah.
Well, if you're an extravagant bourbon drinking, veal consuming, pate, a foie gras guy, and then you stop that diet,
Yeah.
you get worse before you get better.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
true.
yeah.
He has a
It's
duck
happened.
deficit happening.
Duck deficit. Next on the History Channel, duck deficit with Manafort,
I love
crazy swamp man, and hillbilly hand fishing. God, we need a show on that channel.
Oh, yeah.
If they can have Honey Boo Boo, why can't they have us? I don't know. And more history, I think.
Honey,
This is good.
boo-boo.
I don't know.
We're not crazy enough. We need
That's what it
we need
is.
to have an angle that
We
makes
need-
us like insufferable to 50% of the country.
We need giant beards. And
We can make
camo.
that happen, yeah.
We can make it.
We'll just
I'm
strap
already
on-
halfway there. I got those, dude.
Dude, yeah.
We'll just
Genetics.
strap
Got
on
those beard
beards.
hairs. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I get one. I get one right under my chin. The
Just
rogue
one?
hair.
Yeah.
It grows like an
Dude.
inch in a day.
I got my T levels, dude. They're too high.
My name,
got-
I named mine Arthur.
Arthur.
It's a
I
very
wish I only
distinguished
had
name
one.
for a chin hair. I like that.
And I'm light hair, light-eyed, so you can't see it until one day the
Same.
sun catches it, and it's like
Yes.
and you're
It's like, how long have you been growing?
and it's really
Just without telling me.
and it's hefty, so you can't just pull it out. You have to get a tweezer.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
What do you guys? Do you guys have
No.
one? Tweet at me.
Yeah. I grew up watching my mom look at herself in the mirror, pulling her chin back, plucking hairs, and then like, God,
That's your future right there.
that'll never be me.
One day, all of this can be yours.
Yeah. Oh my God. Beautiful woman.
Oh.
Yes.
Beautiful beard.
Well, sometimes we get
Hot mama. Yeah.
we get bio bonuses, but then we have setbacks.
The
every now
universe
and again.
demands balance.
Yeah.
It really does. I mean, I'm perfect in every way except for Arthur. So what are you gonna do?
True.
Yeah, I got like Arthur, Jim, Buck, and Joe.
Is there any Deborahs?
No Deborahs.
Okay.
No. I'm hoping for one.
You know what?
It's getting
When you get
crowded.
one, can we have a gender reveal party? Yeah.
Yeah. Congratulations, you're a boy now.
I'm here. Oh God.
You get a new rogue hair. You have a rogue hair shower. Oh gosh, you guys. We'll be right back. Hey Mueller Junkies, AG here. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the perfumes and colognes and scents that you wear because I'm the kind of person who I don't have like a signature or like one scent that I always wear. I like to mix it up because I have different moods. And I like to, I just like to have choices. And the problem that I find with buying conventional perfumes is that I have to go into the store and I have to buy a huge bottle for $1 zillion, and it's the one that I have, and I can't afford any for a while. So I have this one scent, and that's it. The solution is here. It's called Scentbird, and I love this. And here's what Scentbird does. They have 450 designer brands, everything you could ever want, and you get to choose one every month. You get to try exactly the brands you want. I just got Crystal, which I love, by Versace, and it's like the real deal. So you get to have different scents that you can take with you, and I love them. And you get a 30-day supply. That's 120 sprays. You always smell amazing, and free shipping all the time. So go to scentbird.com/AG. Use my code AG at checkout for 50% off your first month. That's Scentbird, SCENT bird.com/AG. So sign on and smell awesome. All right, welcome back. Hot notes. All right, today Jordan is going to tell us about Trump's swan song interview with Leslie Stahl on 60 Minutes. But first, Jaleesa, you have a big story about how Kushner doesn't pay taxes. Shocker.
Oh, yeah. Very shocking. So last week, the New York Times published an article called Jared Kushner Paid No Federal Income Tax for Years. And
No.
Why? Just, oh my gosh. So this information was provided by confidential documents indicating that Kushner paid little to no income tax from 2009 to 2016. And this was likely achieved through his family's real estate empire. So over the past decade, Kushner and co. have spent literally billions of dollars buying real estate. And despite the failings of their individual businesses, Kushner's personal net worth has quadrupled to nearly $324 million. So he basically made a shit ton more money while paying no income tax for 10 years. And according to the documents, Kushner's low tax bills are the result of a common tax minimizing maneuver that generates millions of dollars in losses for him. However, these losses were only really losses on paper. Clearly, he actually made a lot of money. And this particular tax benefit is called depreciation. So that's a loophole that lets real estate investors deduct a portion of the cost of their buildings from their taxable income every year. For example, in 2015, Kushner pocketed $1.7 million in salary and investment gains, but that's not even including his $8.3 million in losses that year. So in theory, depreciation is supposed to shield real estate developers from having their investments whittled away by wear and tear on their properties. However, in practice, it's just a big money giveaway for developers like the Trump family. Yeah, and the law wrongly assumes that these buildings will lose value every year when in fact these fancy buildings, many of them often gain value.
Yeah, so when Democrats say we need to close corporate tax loopholes, it's shit like this.
Exactly.
Super rich people taking huge losses, carrying them forward, depreciation, and not paying taxes.
Totally.
And then you, the person who doesn't get to do these crazy, stupid business deals and lose a shitload of money, you have to pay the taxes for the country.
Exactly.
So that's what we mean by closing corporate loopholes. It's
Definitely.
shit like this.
Yeah, you nailed that. So these fancier properties, this benefit allows them to have enormous flexibilities for real estate investors to basically determine their own tax bill, which must be nice. But as Kanye would say, no one man should have all that power. I just try to slip in Kanye whenever I can when AG's not looking.
Let it die, Jaleesa.
So for the record,
let him go, man.
It's so hard. I struggle with the old Kanye.
Keep the old Kanye in your heart,
and then let the rest.
Let the rest of shit go.
Yeah. Good point. Good point.
It's like, I mean, he had a psychotic break, basically. Sometimes I don't know. I love that you still love him though.
Well, I just
you're a kind person.
That quote's from like 10 years ago, so he was in a very different place.
Oh, way different.
Yeah. So
I mean,
sad.
I wouldn't know, but.
Well,
it seems like it.
Yeah. I saw him on TV, that's all. So basically, nothing in these documents suggests that Kushner broke the law, just that we have shitty laws that shitty people are taking advantage of. So in fact, just last year, the White House pushed for a huge revision of the country's tax laws that expanded the benefits of these loopholes, pretty much like depreciation. And Victor Fleischer, who's a tax law professor at UC Irvine, said, quote, the Trump administration was in a position to clean up the tax code, and they even promised to get rid of the complexity that certain taxpayers use to their advantage, but instead, of course, they doubled down on those provisions, especially the ones that benefited them the most. So the documents reviewed by the Times were created essentially by Kushner himself as part of a financial review by an institution that was considering lending him money. So that's how this came out. Yeah. Always caught with the money lending. So there's over 40 pages in this document, or these documents, all describing his business dealings, earnings, expenses, and borrowing from 2009 and 2016. And they also contained info that was taken from Kushner's federal tax filings and some other data provided by his advisors. And they also have a whole lot of info on him that I doubt he was planning to release to the public. And most of these documents were created just last year, so they're fresh. And the main point of this article, it seems, besides exposing the truth, was to expose the disturbing trend that Kushner shares with Trump regarding the avoidance of federal taxes. And according to these documents, even Jared's dad, Charles Kushner, is mixed in with this because of his role. Oh, yeah, Papa Kush. So like most real estate firms, Kushner Companies passes all their tax obligations to their owners, who then incorporate them into their personal tax returns. And in this case, that would be Jared and his father. So the documents show that in many cases, Kushner Companies reported their losses with borrowed money, often putting up less than 1% towards the purchasing price. And even that was paid for with a loan. They don't pay for anything. In fact, Kushner's credit line increased from essentially zero in 2009 to $46 million in 2016, with no taxes in between. This is crazy. This is when they say he's a genius in ways you wouldn't imagine. They mean he's not criminal, but like he's just a shady person. Like they're just preaching this America first and all these values about the people, and then meanwhile they're like, fuck your taxes dollars, fuck your your streets and your highways that we use. We're just gonna build shit on it.
Social Security, Medicare.
Yeah, they're shitty. So
they build the tax code like that though. Like you said, it's not. I mean, he's just like he said, he's just using what's there and what was built for people like him to profit.
Yeah, not illegal, just shitty. So in conclusion, Kushner and his friends are getting tax reducing losses for spending someone else's money, which is, like we said, totally legal because last year's tax legislation eliminated that benefit for all industries but one: real estate. So that's just an interesting coincidence. But yeah, that's that. That's the update on Kush.
Oh, what a great guy. I can't wait till he fucking wears a green jumpsuit too.
Oh my gosh.
Crazy ass honey badger yells at him. I didn't put you in jail, bitch. His little weaselly fucking face. I just want to.
Yeah, I don't like him.
Actually, I want to pinch his cheeks. It's kind of adorable. But
true. And then slap him.
Manafort?
No, we're talking about Kushner now. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, he is like an evil teddy bear.
Yeah, if he was a nice guy, he'd be like Trudeau, or Trudeau.
Oh, I thought you said Trojan.
No, yeah, I pronounced his name wrong. Is it Trudeau?
Trudeau,
yeah. I think Kushner would look more like that in my eyes if he was a good person. It's a cute
I
little
think Trudeau
button
could
face.
take Kushner.
Oh, totally.
He's like that evil porcelain doll in that movie, The Boy or whatever, that grew up.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he looks like.
To me, he's more like Michael Cera and what's that movie with the kids that go to the party?
Superbad?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Movie
Any
with the
Michael Cera
kids.
movie, I can see him. Yeah.
That's kind of like track star accidentally gets a girl pregnant. Super
Juno.
goofy.
Yeah. Oh, I love Juno.
Yeah, something like that.
Quotable
Any
movie.
Michael Cera movie really works. Is that his name, Michael Cera?
Yeah.
Ooh,
He should play
check me
Kushner in
out.
the Mueller movie.
Yeah, I think
be
he would
great.
be a good one. Or now that Seth has lost all that weight, he could do it too.
Oh, yeah. Either one.
Also Jonah Hill.
Yeah,
James Franco.
That's who I. Yes. Yeah. No, I was thinking of Seth. Yes, Jonah Hill. Also.
Oh, yeah.
He freaks me out when he's skinny.
I like it.
Is facing that every day, I think.
He's just trying to better
I don't want to
himself,
bag on
guys.
him. I appreciate it. I mean, I know what it's like,
You
man.
look weird when you're healthy. What's going on? You okay, man?
It's weird. San Diego. That's why I love San Diego.
I feel you.
I'm an 8 down there. I'm a 6 up here in LA. So
Hey.
you got it. It sucks. It's hard.
Shout out. Find
It's
me on
hard.
Tinder. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey. Shout out. Find me on Tinder. I'm here this weekend. So, Jordan, tell us about the amazing Trump interview with Leslie Stahl on 60 Minutes.
Yeah, so Trump said some pretty horrible things. I'm just going to go through the highlights or lowlights, I should
He
say.
said pretty horrible things, and then it was over. Bye.
And that's all, folks. No. Okay, so earlier this week, he sat down with Leslie Stahl. They had an interview, and it was first... So I watched the interview, then I reread the transcripts. Reading the transcripts is hilarious and sad at the same time because you see so many dashes where she's being interrupted, and there's so few cohesive sentences that are even in that transcript. It's like a blurb and then another blurb and then a blurb and then another blurb. Them just trying to have an actual conversation. If you look at any of the other 60 Minutes interviews with any other president, it's a full fucking sentence.
Wow.
Like a normal human speaks respectfully with another.
That's
So,
crazy.
Yeah. So that's about how it went. So I'm just going to go through some of the topics that they were talking about. First, Trump on climate change. He says that he thinks climate change is real, but he doesn't know if it's man-made. This is a story that came out. We heard it. They were talking about it on NPR a lot. He says that he's essentially, reading between the lines, he's afraid to say that it is man-made because he doesn't want to lose billions of dollars in jobs. But that's so ridiculous because a clean energy sector would create so many jobs if it was actually functioning as it needs to for us to meet our
Exactly.
carbon neutrality goals.
Ask Rick Perry in Texas. He took it all to wind, and he made a shitload of money doing it.
100%.
There's money in it, but that's not the motivation behind it. You have to just know where the motive is. If you've ever watched Murder, She Wrote, you got to look for the motive. And the motive here is that big oil is where a lot of these rich guys have their money.
Right.
And a lot of the Russian oligarchs have their money who own this administration. And if you start doing clean energy, you're going to put these large oil companies out of business if they don't retool.
Exactly.
That's all this is about. They don't want to lose their zillions of dollars.
Yep. And he actually says that flat out in this interview. It's crazy.
Oh, he does?
Yeah, he says
In his own way,
He
yeah.
says I don't want to. He says I don't want to lose billions and billions of dollars in jobs.
And
he
he's
says
making people
that.
think that those jobs are not the jobs that
Yeah,
they
like
really
coal,
are.
like coal jobs, stuff like that. Stuff
Right.
super, But it's like there's a whole industry to be had. Like you said, wind power. It still is going to take people.
What is this, the 40s? I don't want to lose my coal job, see? Yeah, right
Yes,
there.
Just
Like,
get with the times.
Yeah, because all my fucked up friends are in coal. I want to keep.
you want to
those
keep
friends.
dying from whatever they were inhaling.
Yeah, the Clean Energy Club would not accept Trump and his.
No way.
No, yeah. I was gonna. Okay, sorry. I gotta stop myself sometimes. All right. So he also, of course, can't finish the topic without saying that scientists have a political agenda, and that he can't trust scientists, and that because he has scientists that say that it is a lie, that it is man-made, that climate change is man-made.
Just like his doctors and lawyers he knows too, right?
Yeah.
Those legitimate people in his
Just
life.
like he weighs 239 pounds.
Oh, yeah.
Just like that. And just how he had the largest inauguration crowd in history. It's the samesies.
Most, like 97% I heard of scientists that are like in the field legitimately, they say that like global warming is real, right? And so he's saying the 2 or so % is what.
He's saying global. He's saying he's conceding that global warming is real. He's not conceding that
man-made.
Humans have
But
any
they're
effect
saying
on
that
it or
the
accelerating
97
it.
Yeah. They're
Yeah.
saying that it is due to or it could be likely
Yes.
due to
It's like
human.
99% of the
Pretty
scientists
much,
agree
yeah.
that it's man is solely or partially responsible. It's settled fucking science.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
no debate. Anyone who says there's a debate is full of shit because they have money and oil.
Yeah.
The end.
Those are the political reasons. What political reasons would we have, like, for being on the side of saving the planet? Like, this is crazy.
Right.
Yeah, and as as I like to say, what could it hurt?
Yeah, exactly. And to say that that's a political issue, that scientists would be politically motivated in saying that humankind is causing climate change. Yeah, exactly what you said. It's like, what are the consequences of that? We're going to create more, it's sustainable energy. It's about as cut and dry as it gets, is we need to change how we get our energy. We just have to. There's a limited amount of resources, and we have to change how we're getting it.
We're literally cooking to death.
Simple.
Yes. Can we do something about it? Yeah.
So then he goes on to talk about Jamal Khashoggi. He says that Kushner talked to them being Saudi Arabia, and they said they didn't do it. Classic.
Well, that's that.
Classic. This was, of course, before some of the further developments came out this week. Confirmation by the Saudis that he was killed.
Right.
And, it happened inside the consulate. But it was a fist fight, like we talked about.
Oh, of course. Yeah, very dramatic.
Right.
And now it's chokehold.
Oh, so they beheaded him. They got him in the chokehold first? Okay.
Yeah. Well, God.
That's terrible.
Yeah. So then he talks about sanctions. Leslie asks him about potential sanctions for the Saudis, and he says, basically, everyone is ordering military equipment. I tell you what I don't want to do. I don't want to screw over Boeing, Lockheed, and Raytheon. All of these companies. He says he doesn't want to hurt jobs.
They are, poor Lockheed and Raytheon and Boeing. I mean, they only make billions of dollars.
Yeah, they totally couldn't convert into green energy.
And GE, they have $14 billion in profit, 0 taxes paid. I mean, these poor
right.
You know what I think
companies.
It is? These billionaires, they already have their spaceship to get off of Earth. When it blows, they're set. They got their ticket, man.
Yeah. Yeah, they also are pimping all those companies out to Israel enough for the whole world economy. So, all right, I digress. So he also says, of course he has to slip this in here, he says that no presidency besides his has ever accomplished more in the first 2 years in the history of the country.
Accomplish what exactly? Because he might be right about that.
Well, he goes on. He brings up the economy over and over again in this because it's the only really objectively good numbers that he has to point to.
And is it really due to him?
Right. Yeah. Well, that's a shitty thing about the economy. Sort of. It seems to always. Its after effects always have, an effect on the president that is not one that they deserve, good or bad.
Let me tell you the truth about the economy and the president. The president cannot raise gas prices. The president cannot make the economy better. They can only wreck it. So if an economy is going good, it's because the economy is the fucking economy. It's called the invisible hand. It's the people. It's the way that the economy machine is going. Now, you can put some certain things in place to help save the economy and set it on the right path, but that's just the way that this is the president of the United States. He does not make the economy better. He can only wreck it or not wreck it.
Yeah, and good job for not wrecking it. Sure, he does want credit where he thinks he remotely deserves it, but
I think he's wrecking it.
Compared to what he's wrecking very clearly, he's fucking up some shit.
Yeah, well, I mean, also just down the line, the effects that his inaction talking about clean energy, for example, is going to have on the economy and on everything else, the environment, social structures,
immigration, or sanity.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great point right there too. We talked about this in our Nunes investigative story that I did a mini or a hot note on before. These people they're very conservative people that are saying 100% our farms will not run if we don't have undocumented people to run them.
It's ridiculous.
And
I mean, that's the truth, but then help them.
Right. Yeah. So, okay. Then they go on to talk about North Korea. He says that, he praises his own strategy, saying that Obama eased sanctions on North Korea and wasn't tough enough with them. But he says that he trusts North Korea now, and he trusts Kim Jong-un, and he says he has a good energy with him. Oh, God. Horrifying. Immediately after, he goes on to say that he also has good chemistry with President Xi of China. This guy, we talked about this months and months and months ago. He praises Erdogan, Xi, Kim Jong-un.
Who does he like? Who does he like that's not a dictator? Seriously.
No one.
That's insane.
Yeah, really scary. Then they go on to talk about tariffs. He says that what he's doing is not a trade war. It's more of a skirmish.
Oh.
That's what he wants to brand it as now. It's a skirmish, not a trade war. When asked about him slapping tariffs on our allies, he said, quote, I mean, what's an ally? How scary is that?
Just get him a dictionary. I think he literally meant, what's that word mean?
So we got these pieces of paper that we signed called treaties and obligations and things. I mean, it's complicated. Yeah. Who knew Foreign diplomacy would be so complicated. Or healthcare.
God. Someone needs to make a children's book for him called My First Ally.
Right.
It's just
or if he gets like
a nice talk through.
God forbid Trump ever gets his own money, he can put that on the back of it. Who knew it'd be so complicated?
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. So sorry, Joyce, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just know we have to go quickly here. So because we got a floor to get to on Politica. So on the topic of trade, they bring up one of Mattis's explanations for why NATO exists. Mattis said the reason for NATO and the reason for all these alliances is to essentially prevent World War III. Trump says, I think I know more about it than he does. Yep.
Yeah, he said that about Mattis.
Yep. Also said that Mattis is a Democrat.
Which somehow disqualifies him, I guess.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And talks to, so Leslie's asking him if Mattis is going to be out, and he's like, I don't know, everyone leaves, people leave, it's just how it works.
My dad left, my mom
people
left.
leave. So I don't think that'd be a surprise to any of us if Mattis winds up leaving.
Not at all.
Then they move on to the topic of Russian meddling in 2016. Obviously, we know what he says on this. He says that he thinks Russia did it, but he says China did it too. Everything that he says about Russia, he will not say it ending the sentence at Russia. He always adds the addendum that China did it too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I raped, but Bill Clinton raped too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so then on Leslie asks him if he has any regrets as a president so far, and he says that he regrets that the press hates him.
Well, if he's being honest, I regret that he's our president. I mean, we all have.
Yeah. That's like when you get asked what your biggest weakness is, and then you say something positive about yourself, obviously. Then he gets pressed again to actually answer the question. He says that he wishes he ended NAFTA earlier. Then they go on to talk about immigration. All of a sudden here it says that it's his fault that so many people want to come here because the economy is doing so well. But he says that he has to separate parents because if they were allowed to stay together, then people would be flooding into our borders.
Wow.
Yeah,
I can't.
how douchey is that? On politicians, he calls them babies. He says he's not a baby. Classic. And this is, I just want to add in, he talks about babies a lot in this interview. He's like stuck in some Freudian cycle,
This
I
is
think.
what I was waiting to get to because I think he mentions the word baby like 20 times.
He does. He says baby so many times. This is one of my favorite tidbits that he says to Leslie. He like wouldn't answer a question directly, and Leslie finally just gave up and was like, I'm not going to fight with you. And he goes, Leslie, it's okay. In the meantime, I'm president and you're not.
That's when he used that line? Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Because he refused to answer a question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm the president, essentially. Yeah.
That's about it.
Not that it's confidential, just I don't have to give you my opinion. I'm the president.
Mm-hmm.
He's a bitch.
Yeah.
Such a
Yeah,
bitch.
said, I'm not a baby. I'm not a baby. You're not
Sorry,
a baby.
not a bitch.
Thank you for that, Jordan. That was good reporting.
Yeah, of course. That was a really good interview. Infuriating to watch.
Yeah.
More so to read because of, like I said, the interrupting. But
Exactly.
and him as a
it's
person.
hard to watch.
And president.
He gets so angry, but he makes no sense about it. All right, so
Tan
I want
your eyes. Sorry.
What'd you say?
Tan your eyes. I'm sick of looking at his white eyes.
Yeah, I wish he would. Look at, he's on TV right now.
Always.
He's got the white goggles. All right, so I want to talk to you guys about the story that dropped Tuesday about the Treasury employee that was criminally charged for leaking bank data about Paul Manafort, Rick Gates, and Maria Butina. Her name is Natalie Mayflower Edwards. She was a senior official at the Department of the Treasury's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, also known as FinCEN. Not Sinn Féin, which is a party in Ireland. This is FinCEN. She was named in a criminal complaint for 2 counts, alleging that she leaked suspicious activity reports, or SARs, to the press. A SAR is a report that banks make by law to the Treasury signaling potential illegal or untoward banking transactions. So if something suspicious is going on at your bank, you are obligated to fill out a FinCEN report and send it to the Treasury. It's called a SAR. The journalists and news organizations she leaked to were not named in the court documents. Instead, prosecutors provided dates and stories that seemed to match a series of BuzzFeed articles. But BuzzFeed hasn't commented on this story yet. They apparently communicated back and forth using an encrypted messaging app. What she was doing, they weren't foldering, but what she was doing was she was taking photos of the SARs off her computer, her work computer, from Manafort, Gates, and Butina and Prevazon Holdings, and sending them via messenger to the reporter. Prevazon Holdings, if that sounds familiar, it should. It's the real estate company named several times by Glenn Simpson of Fusion GPS and the company that commissioned the Steele dossier. Her intel led to the publication of about 12 articles, all of which we've covered on Mueller, She Wrote. Officially, she's being charged with 1 count of unauthorized disclosures and 1 count of conspiracy to make those disclosures. Each charge carries a max of 10 years in prison.
No.
Now, when I heard this story, it raised alarm bells to me because back in May, we had reported on a story from Ronan Farrow that ran in the New Yorker about missing Michael Cohen SARs that were leaked. The missing ones weren't leaked. Those are the ones that Avenatti got a hold of and leaked about Cohen's slush fund that he ran out of Essential Consultants. It's fucking essential. That's their tagline, we think. The story said that a law enforcement officer had released the SAR after finding that some were missing. If you remember, this person found a suspicious activity report, or a SAR, on Cohen that referenced 2 other SARs on Cohen, but the 2 SARs were mysteriously missing from the SinFen database. And we had speculated that maybe Mueller had pulled them or locked them down, or maybe the Treasury did, which it's allowed to, but that's never happened. No one knew for sure why they weren't there. Maddow even reported on it, and I remember it clearly because she had said that those documents had gone walkies. And I remember that phrase, really, I was like, that's hilarious. And I remember that, and I was like, oh, ding, 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 these are SARs. So this official leaked the 3rd SAR, the one that they had, because they were concerned that the other 2 were being withheld from law enforcement. So they went to Ronan Farrow with the remaining SAR. This is the reporting that led us to know that AT&T and Novartis and that aerospace company and a Russian emigre named Vexelberg had all dumped large amounts of cash into Cohen's slush fund in Essential Consulting. That leaked SAR is how we found out about all of that. And after the first leak, Ronan Farrow reported that 7 former officials with the Treasury's FinCEN database expressed concern about the missing reports. They said restricting the reports would be unprecedented, and one called the possibility, one of these experts said it could be explosive, that these are missing from the database.
Oh, yeah.
Now, the Treasury official that was arrested this week, and law enforcement, she's the law enforcement person that leaked the Cohen SAR a while ago, might not be the same person. But right after that Cohen SAR was leaked, the Treasury IG launched an investigation into the leak. And here we are 5 months later with an arrest. So even if the SARs aren't linked, the investigation resulting from the first leak probably led to this arrest. And I'm wondering if we'll see additional arrests. But I'm also wondering how this isn't protected under the Whistleblower Act.
It certainly should be.
I guess... I don't know. It doesn't seem like the government was hiding anything. We have SARs. They're confidential.
Yeah.
It's always been that way, and she leaked them. So I don't know. But the other one with the Cohen stuff was that somebody noticed 2 were missing.
Right.
And I don't know if this is the same person.
You're right. If they were the same, then maybe it should go under the whistleblowers. But you're saying if they're separate, then maybe it's a trickier issue.
There weren't any missing. She just took pictures of them and sent them to the press.
Right.
Are there any specific protections, though, for leaking to the press versus leaking to an intelligence officer?
Mm-mm.
So
No.
maybe that's it then?
Yeah, maybe. But I don't know. I think I need to look at the Whistleblower Act again and see kind of what it covers.
Yeah, I wonder if they would ever add any specific provisions for people that are doing things when, like, the nation is going through a crisis like this, like when there's a really big case that we're all aware of, and she leaks this, or whoever leaks this in that case. It seems like it's different from a random, I'm just going to put someone's personal information out here for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
That's like a whistleblower move. It's not like I guess they could say it's political,
Well, I have a question. She's being charged for this, but what about the person who leaked Spangenberg? That's she's a CIA candidate right now running.
Mm-hmm.
Her application for security clearance got leaked or stolen from the United States Postal Service.
That's right.
And used in political ads against her.
And no one got arrested for that, right?
No one got in trouble for that.
Oh, well, then they definitely should protect this person.
How is leaking that different from leaking this? And I'm wondering if there's even an investigation in it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Hopefully we'll find out soon, you guys. So
good story, though.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I just remembered I put those 2 things together. I remembered Gone Walkies.
Yeah, beans and beans. I like it.
Space beans. All right, you guys. We'll be right back. Hey Mueller Junkies, this is AG, and we'd like to thank Third Love for supporting Mueller, She Wrote. We got the chance to go on to the Third Love website, order our perfect fit, take the fit quiz, and I got a bra. You guys all got bras. I got a pair of undies too.
Yeah, undies and a bra.
And I got the t-shirt bra because that's what fit my shape and my lifestyle the best. They ask you, you take the fit quiz. It takes 2 seconds. It's awesome. So there's some new things that are going on. They now have a 100% fit guarantee. They guarantee the perfect fit, and returns and exchanges are free and easy. So if it doesn't fit, they will send you another one. And now they have a new cotton collection. They take their input seriously, just like we do. If you send us, our corrections or input about some of the things we say, they do too. So they recently launched their most requested style cotton t-shirt bras and cotton underwear because they didn't have cotton, but now they do.
It's awesome.
Took 2 years to develop and perfect the cotton collection. It's made of Pima cotton, which is really nice cotton. And they have now, the result is this incredibly soft, very breathable bra and underwear. You want to wear them every day. So this is, you guys have to check this out. They know there's a perfect bra for everyone. Take the fit quiz. Go right now. They're offering Mueller She Wrote listeners 15% off your first order. That's a huge discount. So go to thirdlove.com/AG to find your perfect fitting bra. Get 15% off your first purchase. Again, that's thirdlove.com/AG for 15% off today. You will be glad you did. Are you guys ready for the Fantasy Indictment League?
Yes.
Okay, guys, so regarding, we talked about this earlier, regarding the indictment of the Russian that worked to interfere in the midterm election, this midterm election, that was well, I thought, I've been thinking about whether or not to include this in the Fantasy Indictment League. I know a lot of you picked a rando Russian for your team. You drafted a rando, and this would fall into that category. None of us have ever heard of this lady. She's a treasurer of some, influence operation in St. Petersburg. But we don't have clarification on whether or not this is Mueller related or if Mueller referred it to the EDVA. That's the Eastern District of Virginia. This Russian is being charged by Maine Justice for interfering in the Eastern District of Virginia for interfering with the midterm elections. But I think maybe going forward we could include any indictments for Russian interference that might, because the reason it falls outside of the Mueller probe is because it's for 2018, it's not for 2016. At least I think. In fact, honestly, I'm going to tell you nothing falls outside of the Mueller probe, but he's being very careful to only include those things that so that he has a bulletproof case and he can't be taken down.
Yeah.
For saying he handed off Cohen, he handed off he just keeps handing everything off. The only thing he's keeping is this Manafort Stone shit, Russian shit. So I'm trying to decide, and I think I'm leaning toward allowing indictments of people in the current election year, and because this is going to go on into 2020 as well.
Yeah.
As long as it has to do with Russian interference, I think that maybe we can count it. What do you guys think? I don't know.
Yeah. I know it's a tricky one, but I'm leaning towards Mueller. He's a special prosecutor, so this does have an effect on what he's like. In my opinion, just the interference. It seems like he's the only one that's like really on top of the interference aspect.
But he had nothing to do with this.
Who else would be in charge of it?
Maine
then?
Justice. This is Maine Justice in the Eastern prosecutors in the Eastern District of Virginia.
Oh, he won't even touch it at all. Okay.
Well, he might.
But we've been doing Southern District stuff, but only because Mueller passed it off to them.
He started off with it, yeah.
Well, he like Manafort's being handled in the Eastern District of Virginia, but Mueller has retained the case because it has to do with Russia. But Mueller did not find this. This is not a Mueller thing. Our justice system is actually working and looking for Russians to interfere. And I kind of want to reward that behavior by allowing it to be included in the fantasy indictment.
I think so. It's an honorary including. Yeah.
I also think, although we are Mueller-centric, the issue is Trump-Russia collusion.
There you go.
So if this conceivably fits into Trump-Russia collusion.
Yeah, here's how we can connect it. Because Trump has done nothing to punish the Russians. That's why this shit is allowed.
Yes.
And why it's
or
happening.
Who knows? Maybe down the line they would actually find some sort of connection.
Yeah, and like
Either
I
way,
said,
I think it still falls under it. Yeah.
Well, it doesn't. But like I said, we don't know if it does or not because I do not know if Mueller referred this case or if justice found it all by their lonesome.
Yeah.
Okay, but like Jordan was saying, even if down the line it's a collusion related, would that fall under our fantasy league, just under our jurisdiction at all? And when it comes to, it's not Mueller under the name, but it's what he's looking into. I don't know.
Mueller's not looking into this.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So
I think might, what you're saying. He might later. Okay.
Kind of the line I was drawing is it from Mueller? Does it come from Mueller? Is it an indictment that Mueller created, either by handing it off or whatever? In this case, no. But now what I'm trying to say is, if it's Russian interference, I kind of want to include it, even though it's not Mueller related.
Yeah. Just an honorary one. I think that's perfect.
All right, so we'll count it.
And I appreciate the distinction you're making.
I feel unethical making that argument because I had a rando on my team. All of us did.
We did. I had a rando from last week. Yeah.
Well, whatever. So
we're not making any money from
we're
this.
fixing it. Yeah.
So if you had a rando this week, you're gonna get 2 points for a rando?
Woo woo, 2 points
or 1 point.
Oh, 1 point sounds more like it. Yeah, it's the lowest one.
It's in there. We'll find it.
Yeah.
The reality exists, despite what I say. So we're gonna do that, and then I'm gonna keep a stone on there. Butina. I like Butina. Kushner, and I'm gonna have 2 randos because this shit could start heating up.
Okay, I'm gonna
pre-election
stick with Junior Kush, Ivanka, Papa Kush, and I'll take off my rando and put Stone in that place.
Actually, I'm gonna take a rando off and put DT Jr. back on.
Nice.
I just got to keep him on there.
Yeah.
I'm doing Kushner, Stone, and 3 randos.
Oh shit! It's like a full house.
Ooh, dang. No Junior, huh?
No Junior right now.
All
right, guys, you ready for sabotage?
Yes.
All right, guys, this week the Wall Street Journal reported midday Friday, that Mueller is now looking into the possible connections of Peter Smith to WikiLeaks, saying he knew in advance of the release of the Podesta emails by WikiLeaks, much like Stone did. So, we've been talking about Peter Smith for a while now, months and months, actually ever since Russian Roulette came out. He's the political operative that was searching on the dark web for Hillary emails, and he had, later on we found out that he had $150,000 to fund this project, $50,000 of which was his own cash. And he's the guy who killed himself and had asphyxiated himself in a hotel room and had a note next to him that said no foul play whatsoever.
Sure.
Like, what kind of, even if you wrote that note, what kind of fucked up guy and fucked up shit are you into where you have to leave a note that said there was no foul play?
Exactly. What else happened then?
Like, I hang out with murderers and shit, but they didn't have anything to do with this. This was all me. That's just weird.
Very weird.
What a weird, sad note. But apparently his health was failing.
Oh.
And so he took his own life. Now, so he was out looking for shit on the web, and now Mueller is looking into the possible connections of Peter Smith to WikiLeaks, because now apparently there is proof showing that Peter Smith knew about the advanced release from WikiLeaks, the strategic timing release of WikiLeaks information. Right. Specifically, I think they're talking about the Podesta emails in this story. It's a really interesting story. You guys should check it out. This really kind of only bolsters my Stone pick for this week for the Fantasy Indictment League. I don't think you can indict a dead guy. So I don't, otherwise because I used to have Peter Smith on our Fantasy Indictment draft list, and we had to remove him because I didn't know until we read Russian Roulette that he had passed away.
Exactly.
But then Adam Schiff got all of his documents from his estate, and so they have it all.
So Stone's the next connection to this guy.
He is, and so is Corsi. So you might want to think about if you want to add Corsi or not.
That's a good point. I still have Stone, so I'll stick with them. But what about you guys?
I'm keeping mine.
Okay.
All right, kids. Are you ready to flip it blue?
Oh, yeah.
And joining us today for our Flip It Blue segment is Democratic candidate for Senate in Mississippi, David Beria. David, welcome to Mueller, She Wrote.
Thanks for having me, AJ. Glad to join you. AG, I apologize.
Nope, it's okay. You know what? It doesn't matter. It's not. It's all a pseudonym anyway. So it's actually anything that's not my real name is fine.
Got ya.
Wonderful. So tell us a little bit about what you're trying to do for Mississippi and Mississippians.
Well, we're trying to get rid of our 30 years of Republicans helping themselves rather than helping Mississippians, while in Washington serving us ostensibly in the United States Senate and in the Congress. We have had leadership in Washington and in Jackson at our state capitol that has made a lot of poor decisions that I think were designed to continue to keep us divided as a people rather than to lift us up and unite us so that we can move from 50th place maybe into 49th or 48th or maybe even into the 30s. And we have the potential to do that in Mississippi, but we've just had really poor leadership for a long time. And we've done boneheaded things like refused to take Medicaid expansion under the ACA, and we've prioritized cutting taxes for out-of-state corporations over doing things like funding our K through 12 educational system or fixing roads and bridges in the state. And so I think that it's time to have some leadership that focuses on the things that we need to focus on in Mississippi that helps everyday working people. And, in addition to that, we just need somebody with a statewide platform who can change the conversation and let folks outside of our state know that we're not all backwards and that we can be welcoming. We just need leadership that exemplifies those ideals.
Yeah, that sounds great. I feel like, Mississippi is pretty red as far as Republican versus Democrat goes. But yeah, they've kind of been missing that leadership. Like you said, it's been corporate tax breaks, it's been special interests. Tell us a little bit about your opponent.
Well, let me first, if I could, respond to something you just said. We're pretty red when you look at the number of statewide elected officials that are Republican or Democrat. But if you actually look at the numbers and you dig a little deeper, we're really not as red as you would think. And one of the reasons why is we've got the largest black voting age population of any state. We're at 38%. And next door in Alabama, they were significantly lower and they elected a Democrat. Now, the person who was running against Doug Jones was, somebody who was loathsome. And, we don't have that exact same dynamic in this race. But my opponent is Roger Wicker. I call him Rubber Stamp Roger because he, like a lot of Republicans in Congress now, really doesn't have a thought or an idea of his own. He simply adopts what our current president says, and they brag about being, 100% in alignment with our president. We had a senator who just retired, so we have 2 Senate races on the ballot this year. Our other senator, Thad Cochran, was actually a statesman. You can't really say that about my opponent. He's been in Washington for 24 years, 12 years in the House, 12 years in the Senate, and there's just not much to show for it. So, this is a person who's sort of fits the Republican mold. He's an older white dude, and he's a part of the establishment, but he's not that inspiring to moderate Republicans and independents, and certainly not to Democrats.
Now, is he a Trump Republican, or is he? I guess sort of all Republicans have sort of fallen in line with Trump. Trump's kind of taken over the Republican Party, but would you say he's more of a Trump Republican or an old school Republican?
He was an old school Republican who has become a Trump Republican, and that's one of the reasons why I'm running against him. And frankly, I think that's one of the reasons why I think we have a very good shot at beating him. And the other thing that I think is important for folks to know is that despite having $5 or $6 million in the bank, and despite having served in Washington for 24 years, he doesn't have any polling results in the last 2 years that show him above 47 or 48%. And in a recent NBC poll, he's actually slipped backwards down to 43%. And that particular poll undersampled the black vote by about 8 points. So when adjusted for that, he's actually down around 40 or maybe 39. And I'm in that poll. I would be very, very close when adjusted for the black vote in a midterm election.
Now, I know in some states right now, like Georgia and North Dakota, they're facing a lot of voter suppression issues. Do you have any of that going on in Mississippi?
Well, none that we know of. We've sort of gone through that battle with regard to voter ID, and our voter ID law is not as drastic as some other states. But we've gone through that process, and then we, from time to time, see voter purges and that sort of thing. We haven't really noticed anything of late, but we went through that process a couple of years ago.
Okay, well that's good. That's good news. That is getting to a lot of people. Some of those ID laws that are coming out and closing polling places and making it hard to get a driver's license, etc. Especially disenfranchising marginalized voters. So that's good that you're not seeing that there. And finally, I wanted to talk about, you touched on it a little bit about talking about your Medicare expansion that you guys did not take. A lot of Republican governors didn't take that money. They left, millions, if not billions, on the table. And
yeah, absolutely. We've been holding a series of town halls around the state, and generally speaking, the first substantive question is always about health care. So it's clearly on the minds of Mississippians as well as Americans more generally. And my opponent has been amongst that group that has voted to weaken protections for people with pre-existing conditions while in Congress. And you probably are aware of this, but there are about 52 million Americans that have a pre-existing condition that would let insurance companies deny coverage if the ACA didn't prohibit that. So, while the ACA was not perfect, it was a damn good start. And it's something that we should have had bipartisan support to try to improve so that we improve healthcare throughout America. And obviously, we all know that what happened was the Republicans voted 72 or 3 times in the House to try to repeal it with nothing to replace it. And they're continuing to talk about trying to pull that rug that has now insured 20 million Americans out from under them. And in Mississippi, we have a very direct negative result based on because of our failure to expand Medicaid, in that we have rural hospitals that are failing. We have 5 that have filed bankruptcy in just the last 2 months. We have others that are having to close emergency rooms or to sell off to large healthcare conglomerates. And so it's really an acute problem, to borrow from medical terminology, in Mississippi right now. And we have one in Clarksdale, Mississippi, in the Delta, that has 484 employees, and the county has been given 2 weeks to try to figure out what to do, because the Tennessee company, I think it's Cure, has filed bankruptcy and is now threatening to close that hospital. So it's a very, very serious issue, because we have such large rural areas in Mississippi where, folks are already driving a long way just to go to the hospital. And then if their nearest one closes, you can see the problem that would lead to.
Yeah, and that's astounding to me. But can you maybe talk? Healthcare, I think, is the number one issue on voters' minds this election, and I'm so glad that you're focused on healthcare and that you're focused on these issues in this upcoming election. Can you tell me where people can maybe donate to your campaign, or where they can find information on your platforms and your campaign?
Absolutely. And thank you for the opportunity to do that. Our website is www.baria, that's BARIA, for Mississippi, spelled out, .com. And there is a donate link on the website, along with my various positions on our platform on policy issues. I'm also on social media, on Facebook and on Twitter and Instagram as well. And if someone wants to email the campaign for specific information, they can do that at info@bariaformississippi.com. And of course, we would welcome any contribution, large or small. We're still fundraising in this last 2-week stretch. And in fact, I'm going to one here in just a couple of hours. So we would appreciate any help that anyone wants to provide. Help us flip a very red seat to blue in Mississippi. This is actually achievable in our state this year. We could actually elect 2 Democrats to represent the state of Mississippi.
Yeah, that would be amazing. So David, I found out you have a podcast called Civil Conversations, and recently you had some discussion on your podcast about how Trump was at his rally mocking Dr. Blasey Ford. She was the woman that was wrapped up in the Kavanaugh confirmation hearings and the Me Too movement. Can you talk a little bit about some of those conversations you had, and maybe a little bit about your podcast?
Yeah, I'll be happy to talk about it. The podcast has been interesting for me. We started it because we thought people might be interested in knowing why, sort of the story behind why the Mississippi legislature does some of the crazy things that it does. And so I interviewed several of my colleagues, both Democrat and Republican, and they were kind enough to sit down and talk through with me, their thinking behind the way they craft policy over at the Capitol. And so that's the story behind Civil Conversations. But the particular episode that you're referring to, we've taped it right after the president flew into Southaven, Mississippi, and held the big rally where my opponent was there, and also Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith, who's also running this year. She was also there, and he made the atrocious comments that he made, making fun of Dr. Blasey Ford. And it just so happened that I was holding one of my town halls about 1.5 miles from where the president came in. We scheduled ours first. They came in, and it just happened to be in the same area in close proximity. And I didn't hear the comments until later, because I was holding my town hall. And when I heard them, it was just nauseating. And it's our president trades in cruelty. He likes to be cruel to people. He thinks it elevates him somehow. And so it was just sickening to see the crowd of folks there. I know, it's that particular location is right on the state line between Tennessee and Mississippi. So I know that they weren't all Mississippians, but there were a lot of Mississippians laughing as the president mocked and demeaned a person who I think showed great courage in coming forward with nothing to gain and telling her story. And so to me, it brought to mind other times in Mississippi history when good people stood by and allowed bad things to happen. And, there were a few that would stand up every now and then, but for a long time, there were good people who stood by and did nothing. And I just reflected on.
Sometimes that's worse, right? When good people stand by and do nothing. That's so. Sometimes that's worse.
Well, it gives tacit approval to the terrible acts, and so my opponent Roger Wicker was there in that crowd that night. I don't know if there's any video of him actually clapping or laughing, but you have to presume everybody in there seemed to enjoy it, and so I think there was an article written shortly after that about this whole issue of the president's cruelty and other folks who were similar actors, and they compared the lynchings back in the 40s and 50s and I think maybe even into the 60s in some places where folks would stand by and just watch cruelty. It was a spectacle, and they seemed to enjoy it. And so it's very sad to me that there's always a way to demonize the other for some folks, whether that other is folks with dark skin or women or Muslims or whatever you want to select as the other to put down to make yourself feel better. And Mississippi has a sordid path of doing that. And I would have hoped that we would have moved forward, and we have some, but obviously we still fall back into those old ways every now and then. And there's this old adage in Mississippi that came to mind, and that is, and I don't know who said it, but it goes this way: as long as one man is holding another man in the ditch with his boot on his neck, they're both stuck in the ditch. And to me, that sort of sums up where we've been in Mississippi for way too long. And that's another reason why I'm running for the United States Senate. I want to change that.
That's quite a powerful image. And to think about it, like, let's both get out of the ditch and move forward together.
Exactly. You have to have a little empathy with people that you represent to be able to hear what they have to say and to be able to craft policies that lift people up and unite. And that's the only way that Mississippi is ever going to move forward. If we keep holding our boot metaphorically on another man's neck in the ditch, then we're all stuck in the ditch.
Yeah. And I had no idea your opponent was at that rally that night when they were all mocking and laughing at Blase Ford.
He was.
Wow. That's a lot to think about.
Well, there are a lot of powerful images there, and it's just sad because as much as you like to think that we as a people have moved forward, we're really not fully embracing the 21st century. And one of the things that I talk about as I'm going to these town halls is there are a lot of systemic problems in Mississippi. There's education, there's healthcare, there's infrastructure. We have this brain drain where people are leaving our state in droves. But a very simple thing that we do that would speak volumes is to simply take down our state flag and put it in a museum. It's the only flag left in America that still has the stars and bars of the Confederacy, which is the rallying flag for the KKK and skinheads and these white supremacists. And it would just speak volumes to the world, I think, if Mississippi was to put that flag away and say, look, we are going to turn the corner. We're going to be welcoming to everyone. We're going to join the 21st century. Why don't you come to Mississippi and help us? And right now, we don't have leadership that wants to do that.
Wow, that would be a very powerful message. So you're for a new flag for Mississippi?
Absolutely. And I don't have any particular flag in mind other than the Stennis flag that is out there. I'm not, I don't say that it has to be that one, but that is it's got a good story behind it. It's created by the granddaughter of Senator John Stennis, who was a Mississippi senator way back in the day. And, I think it just tells a good story. And it is something that we could all embrace. It's not been used by any hate group. It's not been used for any particular purpose other than just, a lot of folks are flying it now, and it's a good flag. A flag needs to be something that people can rally around rather than being offensive to 40% of the people who have to walk into buildings and in universities and in public places where that flag is flying.
What a great idea. Yeah, I'm former Navy. We have an aircraft carrier named after your senator. And he was a great man.
Yeah, he did a lot for the state of Mississippi. And in Mississippi, we have representatives in Washington who, once they go up there, they tend to serve for about as long as they want, particularly when they're doing good things. And Dennis was a great senator. But the people that we have in Washington now, I don't think anybody can really say that about.
That's a very good point. David Berria, thank you so much for joining us today. Is there anything else you'd like to add, or any other websites you'd like to talk about, or what places people can go to support your campaign?
No, I've mentioned my website. I've mentioned the social media. We have an ad up and running on television, and we're trying to keep it up. And people should keep in mind that we're running against someone who is entrenched, and he's got a lot of money, and we're doing a lot with a little. I've always run against folks with greater resources, and I have won 4 times now, and I think we can win this time too. We're just trying to raise enough money to do what we need to do and continue to work our grassroots effort, which is obviously more powerful than money.
It is. It's again, grassroots campaigning, people on the streets. Bring 3 friends who aren't going to vote, take them to vote. Get young people out. Everybody visit BerriaForMississippi.com. That's BARIA, the word for FOR, Mississippi.com. Find out how you can help today. Get out there, knock on doors, bring your friends, and let's flip it blue.
Thank you, AG.
All right, guys, this has been fun. I've been AG.
I've been Jaleesa Johnson.
I've been Jordan Coburn.
And this is Mueller, She Wrote. Mueller, She Wrote is produced and engineered by AG, with editing and logo design by Jaleesa Johnson. Our marketing consultant and social media manager is Sarah Lee Steiner, and our subscriber and communications director is Jordan Coburn. Fact-checking and research by AG, and research assistance by Jaleesa Johnson and Jordan Coburn. Our merchandising managers are Sarah Lee Steiner and Sarah Hirschberger Valencia. Our web design and branding are by Joelle Reeder with Moxie Design Studios, and our website is MuellerSheWrote.com.